All right, everybody, we are wrapping up the Cold War right now. If you haven't noticed yet, the entire first half of the chapter is about foreign policy, okay? We went from Truman to Reagan with foreign policy. Now, for the second half, after this video, we're going to go from Truman to Reagan again, but we're going to cover all the domestic issues, everything that happened here at home. So, one of the main things that as we said last video, that caused the crash of the Soviet Union and therefore the end of the Cold War was Ronald Reagan's bluff on the Star Wars program. He bluffed them into spending themselves into bankruptcy. Another big hit, the Soviet Union is not just one country, it's Russia plus 16 satellite countries. Okay, 16 countries that are beholden to Russia. Those countries did not want to really be in the Soviet Union anymore. Okay, and the most powerful one of the satellite countries was Poland. So in Poland, there's a strike. It's the Solidarity Labor Union. They win concessions from the Soviets, opening up the Eastern Europe to an eventual rejection of communism. Okay, here's what happened, y'all. The labor unions in Poland, they want power back. They want to be able to control their own government. So they go on a massive strike to be able to get local officials in office. That way they can have their own government. Well, Russia, or the Soviet Union, Russia says that basically, yeah, we'll let you do that if you stop the strike. So Poland got their way. And now Poland can actually, they wanted to leave the Soviet Union, but the Soviets are keeping them in there, but they can already have their own president and stuff like this. They have more rights. Well, guess what the other 15 satellite countries wanted? Same thing. So whenever they give in to Poland, then all of the other satellite countries rebel against the Soviet Union. And this is at a time where the Soviet Union's already bankrupt because of the Star Wars program. So it weakened the Soviets further. Mikhail Gorbachev, okay? Mikhail Gorbachev, by the way, Mikhail is Russian for Michael, okay? So Mike. Mikhail Gorbachev comes in 1985, and he is looking at a system that is collapsing, and he says, we've got to fix Russia. So I'm going to institute 2 new programs, and these are going to help us fix Russia. They're called Glasnost and Perestroika, okay? So the first one we're going to talk about is Glasnost, okay? An opening of the Soviet system to both criticism and free press. So freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Before this, if you said anything in print or in person that was against the Soviet Union, you'd end up in the Gulag. Well, if nobody can criticize the government, then how can we fix the government? We can't. That's why we have freedom of speech in America. So he says, feel free to say everything that's wrong with Russia and bring your problems to your politicians so we can fix them. Okay, that's Glasnost. It means openness in government. The other one is Perestroika. Okay? Perestroika calls for a restructuring of the Soviet economy with an introduction of more capitalism. Bluntly put, Perestroika means we're going to move from communism to capitalism. Okay? And that was a massive thing that led to the fall of the Soviet Union as a communist country. They're admitting publicly that communism doesn't work, that capitalism is better. Ronald Reagan was president at this time, our president, and he had refused to meet with any Soviet leader. But whenever Perestroika comes up, whenever he sees the leader of Russia moving towards capitalism, he picks up the phone. He says, hey, I want to make this happen too. How are we going to make this happen? Can we help you? Can we give you money? He's trying to get these people on board with a capitalist society. So Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan, actually, the two were enemies before. Now they become friends in moving the Soviets towards capitalism. So, all right, the revolutionary concepts of perestroika and glasnost implemented during the 1980s contributed to blank, okay? Collapse of the Soviet Union, okay? So that's basically what it was. Those 2 things led to, along with many others. By the way, y'all, these are the only 2 Russian words you need to know. Perestroika, glasnost, they would have been chapters, terms, if we had had chapters on these. In 1987, both Gorbachev and Reagan agreed to reduce the number of short-range nuclear missiles. This is the SALT talks, Strategic Arms Limitation talks. They're back, okay? And they're actually basically getting rid of all of our short-range nukes. Again, does it make the world a safer place? Yes, but is it really any safer? Because if you have nothing but long-range nukes left, well, can't they actually reach short-range targets? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, it's a step in the right direction. And the Berlin Wall is going to come down in around 1990, okay? June of 1987, at the 750th anniversary of the city of Berlin, Reagan gives his famous Brandenburg Gate speech calling for Mr. Gorbachev to tear down the wall, okay? He basically said, if you value freedom, if you value, your country and all that stuff, Mr. Gorbachev, come to this wall. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And so the Berlin Wall is torn down, okay? Not immediately after President Reagan's speech, it was about 3 years later. And East and West Germany came together. The Soviet Union fell apart, and now Germany is its own country again. The Soviets release all of the countries that were their satellite countries. So now we have 16 new countries in the world, basically, that used to be under the control of the Soviets, and now they are free and independent countries. That's because of the Brandenburg Gate speech part of it. All right, with the collapse of the Soviets, the Eastern Bloc nations obtained the ability to choose their own governments. East and West Germany reunited. All right, we already talked about all that. Here we go. The collapse of communism in the Soviet Union resulted in the what? Okay, the end of nuclear bombs? No. Okay, end of free markets in Russia? No, actually more free markets. Unification of East and West Germany. So, East and West Germany came together because the wall that split them before is gone now. Okay? All right, next one. What reform instituted by Mikhail Gorbachev is one factor that led to the fall of the Soviet Union? Remember, one of them is perestroika, the other one's glasnost. Which one of these is present here? Okay? Perestroika means we're going to move towards capitalism. Glasnost means openness in government. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press. So it's going to be openness in government. Now, if they had the word glasnost or perestroika up there, those would be acceptable answers as well. 29. President Reagan's 1987 speech at the Brandenburg Gate helped end the Cold War by, calling for the removal of the Berlin Wall. Okay? President Reagan asked him to remove the wall. That's it, folks. The Russians have fallen now, and now we're going to go back to the 1940s and talk about everything from Truman to Reagan in that time period.